I'm Jeffrey Block, Professor Block, sometimes called Doc Block, and I teach music history in various capacities. I teach a freshman writing seminar and various humanities classes, and I also teach the music history sequence for the sophomores. One of the funny things I noticed about teaching writing to new students is even if they went to really good high schools, most of them write fairly well in terms of the mechanics, but they haven't even begun to conceive the idea of writing on a professional level. I'm not talking about just being a good student, but I mean writing on a professional level, something you'd see in a magazine or a book or something like that. And I see some of the same students the next year and the year after that, or seniors, and lo and behold, very often by the time they get to be seniors, they can do it. And I tell them, it may not seem so, and even after one full year, you may not be where you want to be, but you're going to eventually learn how to write, that you can learn to write. You're not a born writer, or it's not something that just comes to you without thinking or without work. But if you do work at it, most students, particularly at Puget Sound, can learn to be good writers and just be patient and keep working and keep reading really good things and try to emulate those things, and eventually you too could become a really good writer. So it's possible. Well, we need more time. You know, I've been writing a long time, and maybe the hardest writing for me was my dissertation, because I didn't know exactly what I was doing for a long time. And dissertation is writing a book-length manuscript, after which you get your doctorate. It's sort of the capstone for that. And since then, I've been doing a lot of writing. In fact, I just finished, don't want to brag, but I just finished my 8th book. And some of the books have been really hard. They've taken a long time, and they've gone through a lengthy review process. So even as a professional, your book goes out and it gets reviewed professionally before it gets published. After it's published, it also gets reviewed. But at least 2 of the books took a very long time. And that was the thing that was frustrating, just how long it took. Other projects come really easily, so you just don't know. And so most of my writing experiences have been really, really good. And writing to me now, as I get older, is become extraordinarily gratifying. In fact, it's one of the favorite things I want to do. I want to just keep writing and writing and writing. It means a lot to me, and getting your work out there and getting it read, and exploring your ideas through writing. So but the main challenge, I think, is figuring out what you want to do and how to do it well. My favorite thing about writing is, overall, most of the process of writing. Most of the process. But that's going to get to my least favorite thing, starting. Starting, even if it's starting a chapter, starting a book review, starting whatever. That's always hard, and it never gets easier. The only thing that gets easier is that after a while you know you could do it, and you can shorten the time of pain. So, but I think even the really good writers that I know have some pain to get a draft. So until it does, it's not, the whole first draft isn't so bad, but getting started and finding a direction, and no matter how many outlines you do or whatever, until you actually sit down and do it, it's just really hard. And it's just always going to be hard, but it's the shortest part of the process, because after the first day, you're no longer at the beginning of your first draft anymore. And so, and then everything else is finishing the draft, revising, and all that. And that's, in terms of time, that's what takes the most time, and that's the most enjoyable. If everything was as bad as the first page, then I don't know. But I don't think I'm unusual in that way. I like to read about writers, and one of my favorite writers and his process, and I like his work ethic, is Philip Roth, who until he was 80 wrote every single day, and sometimes he had to throw away what he wrote the day before. I mean, not just sometimes. And it's so here we have a professional writer who still has to really keep working to get things the way he wants them. Writing plays a major role. I'm in the School of Music, and we have different ways to measure our professional growth. We have performers, and we have conductors, and things like that. And I'm a scholar, and so writing is that's the major component of my professional growth. And so I would say it just has it's just a really huge component. My favorite thing about working with student writers is watching them develop as writers and learn. They have to start with rudiments and things like that, obviously, and then gradually they work towards writing, making a good argument, and I like helping them till they get to that point, and then ultimately to develop a personal style. And that in the freshman level, that's hard. But even on the freshman level, they can, if I see signs of that, I'll say, in this paragraph, you revealed your potential as having a personal style. And I think that's really, really important. And I think that also watching and helping writers to see how important it is to be able to make their arguments. If you can't make your arguments, people aren't going to pay attention to you. And on whatever level, even if you go into business or whatever you go into. And so watching people get to this point, become on the verge of being professional writers, developing arguments, and then developing a personal style, it's just tremendously gratifying to watch that happen. And also another favorite thing is when I see them again in a class and see how much they've developed as a writer. And that means a lot to me. So.